My first breakup is taking a toll on me. To give some context, me and my ex-girlfriend met while we both were studying abroad for the 2023 spring semester in South Korea. We started as friends and shared lots of similar interests, matching personalities. When I realized she was different to me, I decided to ask her out mid-April after 1 month of getting to know her and feeling out if we had mutual chemistry. To add more context, right after I asked, she shared with me that she was a victim of multiple instances of sexual assault from past relationships and that she still had damage from those experiences, and it was kinda set the tone for me at least that a relationship with her meant I needed to be challenging myself extremely hard and to better figure out my own flaws, myself generally, so that I can be better equipped to treat her respectfully because it was my first relationship. Almost immediately, we started getting really deeply intimate. Less than a week of asking her out, we started sleeping together, growing to almost twice a week until we left back home. She initiated first because she was horny, but both of us started initiating afterwards and was definitely a pillar of our relationship. We felt comfortable and loved by being physically close with each other. Our relationship had ups and downs. We both hurt each other, but I feel proud to say that we at least had respectful arguments, and both felt like we genuinely wanted what's best for each other. And we were able to make almost a year's worth of special memories within a couple of months. The looming time of going back home made both us feel like we wanted to accelerate the relationship. And I think it helped us, at least in the beginning, to find compromises and really open ourselves up to being vulnerable to each other. We had that stuff, and then I was happy to meet her family in Korea when school ended. She would have met mine too if her mother didn't get COVID right before I was supposed to introduce her. Fast forward, we started long distance in the summer. We both were struggling hard, but I think I was struggling worse. And I think after reflecting now, I realized that I was very overly anxious about where we would be. The inevitable problems that will come with our specific circumstances, long distance, and her very cautious attitude to deeply integrate me into her life. I was very willing, maybe too much, to mold my life around her needs and find ways for me to be physically closer to her in the United States. I had my own desires. But I felt that she was my top priority in life and thought it was possible to have at least some of both. I feel after reflecting now, that my feelings of anxiety were a sign of my preoccupied, anxious attachment. We had planned to spend Thanksgiving together this year and I booked tickets to see her. One day during August, she dropped a bombshell on me that she wanted to take a break. I had thought the relationship has been okay. We were both having issues, but we both, at least I thought, wanted to keep going through the struggle until we were at least in the same time zone. She explained that she felt like she had been stressed about some kind of burdens she placed on herself for keeping the relationship and wasn't sure if she wanted to continue the relationship, wanted more time to figure out what she wanted. She was also upset that I brought up the question a handful of times of whether she even considered me in her future, or if we should continue being together if we think we're going to hurt each other. Her answer was always that she wasn't sure purely logistically, due to personal circumstances, and due to her own feelings. So then, we went on break. I did genuinely want to support her in her happiness, but I also did feel upset to feel so powerless in supporting her and having even less impact, communication of both of our lives. I grew more anxious every day and more confused about who I was to her. Early September, after barely a month, I blew up. I couldn't take waiting longer, at least to not discuss extending the break with her. The stress I had internally was drastically impacting my life negatively, not sleeping, not eating, insanely anxious. I tried asking her respectfully to arrange a time to discuss this issue, and she firmly said that she did not feel even close to ready to discuss. I tried leaving it at that, but my stress and anxiety got even worse one day later after getting such strong rejection for the first time from her. She gave no comforting or compromise. I practically was begging for just some kind of communication from her that's not texting because we kept misunderstanding each other and a chance to voice my struggles, issues with this relationship because I had such conflicting feelings about everything. And I wanted to stop my insanely unhealthy lifestyle that was being motivated by the stress I had made from being together. I also felt like something about the situation was wronging me and that I was being led on to keep hurting for a girl that doesn't want me. I then half-jumped to a conclusion in a tense moment, and she decided on the spot to break up with me. Now in late September, early October, I'm struggling so hard to keep her out of my life and mind. She stopped responding to me but kept all of my socials, gaming friend list. I unfriended her and decided to really separate harshly from her because I'm hurting so much just remembering her and the love I had for her and wanted to move on. Even just seeing other couples now almost disgusts me and makes me feel upset. And I think one of my biggest concerns is that I may get into another relationship with my unknowingly unresolved issues and hurt someone I care about so deeply again. Grieving my marriage before I end it. For the past 10 years I have given everything I have to this man. I am a 30 years old and my husband is 31. I thought he was the love of my life. We have 3 beautiful kids together, and we have been married for 5 years this past spring, together for 10 years. Over the course of our relationship, my husband has completely lost my trust in various ways. He has a really bad addiction to weed and gaming on his PC. He will not stop. He sneaks away to go smoke. For instance, he left the hospital when our child was born to go get high, and that's just one of the hundreds of occurrences. He has already been arrested once because police found paraphernalia in the car. He also got kicked out of school because he was carrying a pipe. He has bought weed instead of paying the mortgage. He lied to my face and told me he paid the mortgage, but then I got a letter saying the house is now in foreclosure and we were days away from our family of 5 getting kicked out on the street. Luckily there was a financial hardship group that helped pay that debt off, which was close to $18,000. It was truly a miracle that we got to keep the house after all of that. A few months go by and he ended up selling the house anyways because he was behind on the mortgage again. He also has a problem keeping a job. Since the house sold, he has kept the money and I have absolutely no access to it. He said he would take care of the rent if I took care of utilities, which I reluctantly agreed to. A year has gone by and he is still smoking tons of weed. I have no idea how much dollar is left. He doesn't want to talk about moving into another house, so I am literally left stranded and guessing on what we are doing as far as future living situations. I don't want to keep renting. I didn't even want to sell the first house we were in, but because he was behind on the mortgage yet again we had to uproot and move. I told him we need to have a conversation about what we are doing in the future as far as securing a house or saving the money to possibly let a financial advisor help us. He refuses to talk about the money he got for the house because that was his house, so that's his money. Side note: he had the house before we got together. And I know we are married, but he still sees it as his. Any time we try to talk about serious issues, he leaves the room to go get high and then plays on his game for hours on end. Every time I tell him to get off the game, he says, "I never get to game, and the one time my friends all hop on the Discord, you want to talk to me about stuff now." And then he puts his headphones back on and keeps playing like I or our problems don't even exist. I think the straw that really broke the camel's back was for our anniversary he decided to game instead of plan anything special. He said, "Well, you were taking a nap all day, so I didn't plan anything." I walked away from his gaming area and realized that this man really doesn't give a shit about me. Like at all. And I honestly hated myself for putting up with this for so long. I finally broke down and told my parents, and they had no idea it was so bad. I told my husband's mother, and she is a real boss. She is literally his enabler. She bailed him out of jail when he got arrested. And she went to go pick him up from college when he got kicked out because of weed. And I honestly can't stand her nonchalant attitude towards the whole situation. This issue is serious, and I told her I am in fact leaving, and she doesn't care and shows no concern or anything. I'm making plans to move back in with my folks. It just sucks because I have no money for a lawyer since he kept the funds. I had to be the one to move out because he refused to leave. And I am the primary caretaker for our 3 kids. He doesn't help in the mornings, he doesn't take them to school, daycare. He is minimally involved in their lives at this point since he has now moved into his office and out of our bedroom. I am so incredibly sad and distraught that I gave so much of my life to this person who could give 2 shits. I told him I am in fact leaving, and he said, "Well, when are you actually leaving? Because I need to make plans to pay for everything myself since you're abandoning us." And also, for the past few months he has been having manic episodes at night and completely freaks out and screams and curses me out and uses physical intimidation towards me. The kids get scared at night because they don't know if he's going to snap. He sometimes locks me out of the bedroom, and when he does I just sleep on the couch because if I knock on the bedroom door he will get pissed, and that always leads to a fight. So I started keeping extra clothes in the front closet so I have something to change into so I can avoid him, since I'm scared to even go into my own room. I'm just done. The emotional abuse, the financial infidelity, the manipulation he has inflicted. I am just done with all of it. This is so hard and it sucks, but for my mental well-being I can't be here anymore. Am I crazy for trusting this person for so long? I feel like an absolute fool for staying for 10 years. I 36M decided to get back with my on and off again GF35F in 3 days in an uninvited guest showed up. I got back with my ex, again, and 3 days in, one of her flings from when we were recently broken up showed up at her house unannounced and uninvited. I reacted very strongly and she ended up blocking me before we resolved anything. Have you ever been caught in a cycle of coming back to an ex over and over, even when crazy things have transpired? How did you stop the cycle? I've had a love-filled but fairly toxic 3.5 years with my GF, June. She has a kind, generous soul and we have a lot of love for each other, but her life has evolved very differently than mine and we are two very different people. She had a very unstable childhood including abuse and neglect. Her dad died when she was very young. She joined a very intense Christian church, and she's had 2 failed marriages. I believe these are the main differences that contribute to our wildly differing approaches to various relationship challenges. Some highlights are: we don't argue very well. It commonly turns into a you versus me, instead of us versus the problem. It seems like I get more invested at times than she does. She's fairly quick to resorting to running away as a solution, and due to the religion, our relationship has stayed pretty secretive. Not to my family and friends, but to most of hers. Anyways, after having a blowout on a camping trip this summer and not being able to effectively talk through it together, I decided it was not worth our time to continue trying to make this work. And I decided to end the relationship. This always breaks my heart as I have a lot of love for June and genuinely enjoy our time together, and I really want nothing more than to be able to have a normal relationship with her. Fast forward a few months. She texts me, and as usual, it doesn't take long at all for me to forgive the past and let her back into my life. She tells me she has cut off her religion to a large extent. She still attends periodically, but she claims she's no longer letting them control her life the way they have historically. She's ready to go all in and give this a real try. I'm excited at the prospect of new beginnings, but also tell myself that I need to do a lot of observing and take things slowly so I can decide if we actually have a chance of the healthy relationship I've been dreaming of. There are a lot more details that have led to some trust issues in the past than what I can fit into this attempt at a short story, but it honestly felt like this time could have been different. One detail she shared with me was that after we broke up, she had a few flings with other guys. One of them has been really persistent in trying to win her over. She claims she told him from the beginning she's not interested in a relationship, but they have known each other for a long time from work. So he has been taking it upon himself to drop by when he's in the area, to say hey to her. And she says it's obvious he's looking to see if she has changed her mind and wants to give him a chance at a relationship. This made me super uncomfortable, and I told her the last thing I want would be for us to be hanging out and he shows up uninvited. She assured me that this wouldn't happen. She told him she was back together with me, and asked him to please leave her alone. She told me, he gets it, and she assured me he won't be in her life anymore. Fast forward to Tuesday. 3 nights into our newly rekindled relationship, she invites my son and I over for dinner. I was helping clean up after we ate. She told me she was going check her mail. She came back in 20 seconds later with a deer in the headlights look on her face. When I asked what was going on, she told me this guy is parked outside in her guest parking. When he saw her come outside, he got out of the car to talk to her, but she ran back inside and locked the door. After 5 to 10 minutes nothing happened, so we assumed he was gone. This turned into a very emotionally heavy conversation between us. I felt very unsafe. I felt like I might not be getting the full story with this guy. I felt like she doesn't have very good boundaries. Plenty of other examples of this throughout our history together. And I felt like she wasn't taking this as seriously as she should. After expressing how I felt like we were both in danger and that this cannot be taken lightly, she replied with, "My ex-husband put me in more dangerous situations than this. I would say this is like a 6/10. An ex whatever showing up whenever he pleases is completely unacceptable to me and crosses so many of my own boundaries." I was at an 11/10 for the rest of the night. After some heavy conversation and a light commitment from her that she would involve the police only if he came over again and that I would hold off on coming over until it was entirely resolved, we decided to call it a night. However, upon leaving, I had a present on my windshield. He apparently ordered her a pair of pajamas and he left the package, with his name and address, on my windshield. What a way to end the night, right? The next morning, she called me to ask how I was feeling, where I was at, etc. She did apologize, kind of half-assed emo. Nothing like, "Hey, I understand where you're coming from and I will fix this." But I had so many emotions running through me I didn't even know where to start. Knowing myself, I should have given myself time to process my feelings and decide how I wanted to proceed before engaging in a conversation about this situation, but I didn't. I let my emotions get the best of me and I let her know all about how I felt. My speech was definitely based on facts, but I went places that I likely would have omitted, had I given myself time to produce some rational thoughts and a plan about the situation. After I unloaded for about 10 minutes about how I don't know if I trust her, about how much she hurt me, about how I feel like she seems like she only came back to me after she realized she didn't want to be with this crazy guy anymore, she replied with, "We need to be done doing this," hung up on me, and blocked me. She told me during this conversation she was feeling flighty, and that she thought we should probably take a step back while she could figure out how to handle the situation. But I didn't feel like that was a reasonable option. Her actions put us in an extremely uncomfortable position and I didn't feel like I should be the one who needs to step back while she figured out how to handle this for good. What was she going to do anyways? Go talk about it over coffee with the guy? Anyways, I know I pushed too hard in this conversation and tried to text her later that I didn't give any grace or credit during the convo and wished I could take it back. But my message was not received since she had already blocked me. Almost guaranteed that within the next 2 months, She will text or call me, and if history repeats itself, it will take about 20 minutes for me to understand her and let her back into my life. I don't think I want to keep doing this, although the feelings of loneliness and of this could have turned out so much more differently if only X, Y, or Z tend to overpower my logical and rational nature.